Now, as Nigeria continues to grapple with a fast-expanding tertiary education sector, concerns are mounting over the quality and oversight of the institutions being licensed. The National University Commission has approved over 270 universities nationwide, a sharp increase from just over 100 a decade ago. But while access to higher education has broadened, critics warn that standards have declined significantly, with many institutions lacking adequate infrastructure, qualified faculty, and rigorous academic frameworks. This growing crisis has drawn pointed criticism from respected legal icon and education advocate, Chief Afe Babalola, who recently raised alarm over what he describes as the unchecked proliferation of substandard universities. He warns that the current trajectory could erode public trust in Nigeria's degrees and damage the country's long-term development prospects. Now, to unpack these concerns, Arise News analyst Dayo Sobowale joins us with insights into the roots of this problem and what must be done to enforce quality and accountability across Nigeria's higher education system. Good afternoon, Mr. Sobowale. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, I recall some time ago.
Yes,
I recall some time ago we discussed the proposal by the National Assembly to approve some 200 universities in addition to the already existing 270 universities. But I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on these concerns raised by Afe Babalola, Chief Afe Babalola, about the proliferation of substandard universities in Nigeria.
Right. The concern is legitimate. It is in the right direction. Let's say it that way. And he should know because he owns a university. And I will not know if he's talking from the competitive angle or from the legal angle. But then I think his concern is legitimate, and I go into it. But you see, he has attributed the falling standard of education to the way universities are approved and put on board. I don't buy that. I think education is the magic one for economic development, and the people should have access to it. Once the National Universities Commission identifies and approves a university, I don't think anybody has a right to dispute that. And I'm sure the LUC people will be very concerned now because they are sure they are doing their quality assurance work in setting up universities and approving them, and the regulatory work of looking after those universities to ensure that they conform with the highest educational standards. So to me, I would want more universities, the more the merrier. You get me? Because it will give more people access, you get me, to university education. And once you have access to university education, you are included in the community. You have access to inclusion in the commercial, educational, financial sphere, to earn a living and look after yourself and make a contribution to your family and to society, thereby making the country to have economic development and growth. So, as long as the NUC does its job of assessing the universities to be opened, as long as it does its job well, I would say the more universities you have, provided the standards are maintained, the better.
Okay.
Let's leave it at that.
The more the merrier. And of course, you give context, which
I
is important.
Said that, yeah.
Of course.
Okay.
Well said, Mr. Sobowale. But which specific regulatory failures, in your opinion, do you think have allowed these institutions to proliferate despite existing oversight frameworks?
Right. I won't frame it that way.
Okay.
There are so many issues that lead to lower standard of education. So many issues. Admission problems are there, quality of admission. The nature of the various faculties and the strength in disciplinary areas of each university. Now, in my old time, they would say ABU for architecture and architecture, oh yes, IFE for law, UNILA for law, and things like that. They have areas. And you see, if you talk of quality of student participation in university life, you have so many things that condition the type of graduate that comes out of each university. There are some universities and faculties, tutors harass female students. There are some that, you see, the lecturers ask of some things from the students. Even undergraduates, the postgraduate, they ask for some gifts from them. Such things affect the quality of education. But those are inside. The admission one is from outside. Yeah. When I was in school, there was a washout, some admission scandal involving the 5 main universities there. Only Ife was cleared. I went to Ife. And when I started work, nobody asked me for, I worked in 3 places. Nobody asked me for a certificate. I just dropped my testimonial, the temporary thing they gave me. And later I learned that it was because Ife was the only university at that time that did not have this admission racket. Mm-hmm. So many issues contribute to the final product that comes out of the university, because we are interested in the final product, that's the graduate, either at the undergraduate, graduate level, postgraduate level, and then the quality of research. That one needs funding. I don't think any university now will be given approval to function if it doesn't have funds. So you see why I say the ball is in the court of the NUC. I'm sure they will react to this. Although Baba has made this point, they will react to it. Let's leave it at that for now.
I'm wondering, Mr. Dayo Sobowale, what you think is it, because he made a very strong point about how the era of Professor Peter Okebo-Kola at the NUC was a time of rigorous accreditation and quality assurance. I'm wondering what you think has changed from that time till now, and what you think the regulatory bodies can do to make things better.
Well, it's going to the past, but society is not sedentary, it's dynamic. That was Okebo-Kola's time. How do you want the man there now to feel? You get me? That's not fair. In my view, the times have changed. When I was in school, there were about 5 universities. How many do you have now? Talking of 170 or 270.
270.
So the times have changed, the strategies have changed, the technology has changed, and the focus and available resources, they have changed. So let's leave Okebo-Kola out of it.
Yeah, but you know he was, sorry to butt in, you know he was focusing on the fact that there was a thorough accreditation process and that it wasn't just wishy-washy and then getting substandard universities here and there.
How do you say they are not doing thorough accreditation?
That's what
and that's his opinion. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's not cast in stone. That's his own opinion. And he is a university owner. If he asks him, he will ask everybody to come to his university. Mm-hmm. But the things don't happen that way. And that's why I said I'm for proliferation of universities so that people have access to things that will enable them to live a good life.
As long as quality is maintained.
It has to be maintained, or else you won't be able to contribute to it.
Absolutely. Now, beyond government intervention, for instance, what role do you think industry partnerships play or should play in enhancing university quality?
They have always played it.
Should they do more?
Well, of course. And it depends. It depends. You see, you have Shell, these big companies, sponsoring chairs, get me? Sponsoring chairs, sponsoring research, and sponsoring exchange programs for universities. They have always done that because it's part of their social responsibility role to be seen as being a good, solid citizen in the community. If they are approached, you know, there was a time when we were discussing here, we were discussing about the autonomy of the universities.
Yes.
The autonomy. You see, this is part of that. If the universities are allowed to fend for themselves, not at the expense of government patronage, they can go pari passu, but they are allowed to fend for themselves, to commercialize some of their research in engineering, technology, and all that. So it's have some money. Yes, it should be okay. I'm sure most universities are doing that. But you see, Nigeria is the government that takes the lead. Unlike in the US, we have private universities. You hear some universities threatening people who are demonstrating against Israel, that they have put down their names, they will make sure they are not employed once they graduate. That's the society, private sponsorship, society, government and private sector cooperation. It makes for expansion of access to university, provided you have quality education. Let's leave it at that.
Do you think that this proliferation of substandard university and poor quality in our university, yes, I'm not done with my question. Yeah. Do you think that that may be contributing to the brain drain that we're experiencing in the country, because we see a lot of people, even the top guns, sending their kids out of the country to get tertiary education? Do you think that that is contributing to that in a way?
That is not correct. You see, we are Nigerians. You know, if you go for a 3-year course in Nigeria, you end up spending 7 years. So if you can afford it, you send your child elsewhere. People send their children to Ghana or to places where tenure of study is guaranteed. That one is not the fault of government. It is the fault of the industrial relation crisis between the university senior staff.
But isn't that part of the substandard system we're talking about? The lack of infrastructure, the poor salary structure, and all of that.
If all those things are in place, you will have poor standard of education. But he is attributing it to proliferation. Whereas as the NUC thrown his hands off that it is approving substandard universities, they have to be fair to people. The NUC is doing its job. He's making an observation. He's a lawyer. Let him make his observation. Let us debate it. What he has said is not sacrosanct, even though you buy it. It's not sacrosanct.
Yeah, I'm just doing my job of interrogating the situation.
Okay, Mr. Sobowale, let's talk about motives for a moment.
Motive for what? For starting university?
Yes. Now, how might the economic motives behind establishing private universities be regulated without stifling education innovation?
How do you mean by education innovation?
Of course, we need to improve.
I know what you mean.
Okay.
Look, in Nigeria today, the new universities, majority of them are owned by former heads of state, politicians, senators, governors, etc., etc. Some people have said it's an avenue for money laundering from the wealth they have gained, but it's not peculiar to Nigeria. They raise the same alarm in India. Some professors are saying that it's only politicians who can have the sort of money to fund universities. But then, it is not the one-sided thing. I have seen universities in this country. We started out as a nursery, then they become secondary school, then if you go to Ife now, there are many universities and polytechnics by private people. If they meet the criteria of the NUC, I will not follow the NUC. Because you talk of low standard of education. It depends on the various faculties. It's not the generic something. Some places you have some stand professors, they will always turn out good products. But in others where you have people who are more commercial than academic, you have poor products. And they all go out into the same society. You see, at the end of the day, it is the productivity that matters. I will give you an example. When I was in the bank, we had this MSc program in some universities. But after some time, people saw that the productivity was not there. So they reverted back to AIB. So that's quality assurance. Yes.
I didn't expect any less from you, knowing how passionate you are about education, free education specifically. We'd like to thank you for your time and analysis. As always, Arise News analyst, Mr. Dayo Sobowale, many thanks.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.